Did you know that governments lie and that governments mess up and get it wrong? And that they can do that even when your guy is running it? You should. You should know that. Let me show you a couple of things they're doing wrong right now. They're talking about these drug smugglers, which I am against mind altering drugs. I think we need all the reason and mind power we can get. I mean, I've never even been drunk, honestly. I've never used illegal drugs and I've never been drunk. I'm against it. We need to reason with one another. But words mean things, okay? And here's what terrorism means. I'm going to read a definition, dictionary definition of terrorism: the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. Now, drug smuggling is a despicable crime, but does it meet that definition of terrorism? It does not. The guys bringing those drugs in, they just want to make a lot of money, and they don't care who they hurt in the process. So they're criminals, and they should be punished, but they're not terrorists. So let's start there. It is a very dangerous precedent to let the government, any government, even one run by a figure who is beloved to you, to declare certain actions crimes that are so bad that no due process is needed, and there need be no check and no restraint on the behavior of the executive branch, because this crime is just so awful that we can't have due process. If we say you're guilty of this, then you don't deserve any due process because we've said you're guilty of it, and it's just so terrible. So one, they're misleading you, they're deceiving you, they are lying to you that drug smuggling is even terrorism. It's terrible, but words mean things. It's not terrorism. Two, even if it was, it would be a separate question. Do we need due process for terrorists? Okay, we don't even have to ask that question though, because drug smuggling is not terrorism by definition. The government is asserting that it is, but governments lie a lot. They lie a lot even when your guy's running them. And also what they do is they creep and expand their powers relentlessly. So whatever your guy does this time, the next guy will take that and go from there and have even further power, take even further advancements against our liberties. Who knows what well they'll take it from there. But right now the question is, should the executive branch have the power for capital punishment when they without due process, when they accuse someone of a specific crime when it's not even really that crime? That's the question we have to ask today. And I know partisans will attempt to justify it by saying, well, this isn't a crime, it's a war. Okay, if it's a war, we're still supposed to have, in a republic, checks and balances on executive action. Congress is supposed to declare war. Congress is supposed to say where we go, who we're fighting, how about when we get out? Because these nebulous wars, a war against mines, a war against terrorism, a war against poverty, you can't war against something like that. You've got to war against an entity. But war is the health of the state. A Roman statesman, I believe it was Cicero, said war is the health of the state. And what he meant by that was it's used to justify growth of government, shrinkage of freedom of the population, plundering the treasury. And that's the way it is now. And so I would like people who I've long considered defenders of freedom in our society, and they probably consider themselves that way, to actually be that and stand against the unjust expansion, the unlawful, the unconstitutional expansion of federal power. So they say, oh, well, It's not a war and it's not a police action. It's this third nebulous thing. It's what Thomas Jefferson did when he sent ships after the Barbary pirates. It's like piracy. Okay, well, smuggling is not piracy either, by the way. So, but let's say that it is for a minute. Let's say that they are equally bad crimes and they're similar crimes because they involve sneaking through. Uh, they're not the same. What we're doing now is not the same as what Jefferson did with the Barbary pirates or any government did with the pirates. Because we had time back then. Before the bullets could fly, before the cannonballs could fly, and even after they started flying, there was time. The pirate ship could run up the white flag and surrender. And then they would be what? They would be taken captive, sailed back, and put on trial and given due process. That is not happening now. Death can fall from the sky in an instant with our modern technology. And because of that change, we haven't caught up with it yet. How do we apply that? How do we apply this new technology to due process, to civil rights? And they say, well, those aren't Americans, so they don't have any civil rights. One, you don't know they are not Americans. They don't know the individual names of the people they're taking out. That's another scary thing. We have half of my countrymen are approving, saying the executive branch of the government can get away from all oversight just by accusing people that they can't even name of terrorism, and they can take those people out. They don't even know who they are, but they've accused them of something just so terrible that we ought to be able to take them out with no oversight and no review of our actions. And that's a incredibly short-sighted policy. Who knows what's next? If they can say that smuggling is like piracy, is like terrorism, what are they going to say is terrorism next? Maybe someday this video will be considered terrorism because I'm stirring up trouble, or something you say is terrorism. Holding on to your gold or silver, holding on to guns and ammo is terrorism because it's so intimidating of your neighbor, so you need to turn it over. See, that's what you risk letting happen when you let the government, let the executive branch get away with redefining words and declaring things that are not terrorism to be terrorism, and then using that to say, and terrorism is so terrible that we don't have to do due process. We can just go ahead and, if we accuse them of terrorism, they must need wiping out. Either it's war, in which case we need to have congressional oversight, or it's a crime, in which case we need judicial oversight. Right now, we have neither, and that's not the way this republic is supposed to work. Anyone caught up in our legal system should have due process. It's not up to the United States government to protect the civil rights of foreigners. Like, it's not up to us to make sure that the El Salvadoran government protects the gun rights of El Salvadorans. El Salvadorans may have a natural right, the same as us, to keep and bear arms. But it's not the job of our government to protect their rights. It's the job of our government to protect the rights of the people that are under its authority. However, if you are captured as a criminal, you are now under our authority. And they can't just, oh, you're not a U.S. citizen? Well, we're just going to take you on the gutter here and put this to your temple and end it right now. It's not the way it works. If we capture illegal aliens, they should still have some, and they do. It's a little bit different. The due process is different, but they still have some. And how much more when we're talking about deadly force every time? So, the arguments being used to justify this gross expansion of state power, big government, people who say they're against big government are all for this massive expansion of state power, the ultimate expansion of state power, because once they have the power to take your life by accusing you of something that you're not even doing that, you're doing something else, but they can still take your then taking your possessions is small potatoes. They're already gone past that. What power is denied them? I know that many of you think it's the other guy getting their toes stepped on, and it's people we don't like getting their toes stepped on, and so we think it's great. If the government's doing it according to rule of law, or if the government's not doing it according to rule of law, we think it's great. It's not great. It's whatever legal precedent is being used to justify action against others will one day be used to justify action against you, against your family, against your children, against your grandchildren. So I urge you, look inside, stop, think, take a breath, consider, is it really the same as terrorism to smuggle drugs? And if it isn't, the policy that they're doing is wrong. Even if you think it is the same as terrorism, you must ask yourself, do terrorists have any due process? Why do we put the Boston bombers on trial? Why didn't we just off them as soon as we caught them? Because even terrorists have due process. At least they did until this issue came up, until our liberties eroded further. If you say, well, it's not like a criminal matter, it's like a military matter, then we should have congressional oversight rather than judicial oversight. Where is that judicial oversight? And even in war, folks, do you think it's right that we execute people without a chance for them to surrender? It's not our way. Thank you for listening.